They tell you it's you, that your struggle is personal, not systemic. That your burnout, your insomnia, your aching relationships are your faults. And if you were just better, stronger, more grateful, then you wouldn't feel like this. But what if the soil's poisoned and they're blaming the plant? Every living thing wants to thrive. If it isn't thriving, something's wrong with the conditions, not the will of the seed. We've mistaken exhaustion for weakness, isolation for failure, dysregulation for dysfunction. But these are symptoms of toxic environments, not broken people. Well, not entirely. We've been taught to carry our pain like it's a personal flaw, to see exhaustion as a lack of discipline, to mistake loneliness for unworthiness, and to label emotional overwhelm as brokenness. But these aren't flaws, they're signals. Exhaustion is a survival response. Isolation is a symptom of a world that withholds care. Dysregulation is a body trying to keep up with chaos it was never meant to normalize. They tell us to adapt, to toughen up, to manage our triggers, but what if the world itself is the trauma response? Repeating harm, glorifying numbness, rewarding those who disassociate best? Some people don't look broken because they've aligned with the system that broke them. They call it strength, but often it's just amnesia. A forgetting so deep that they can't feel their own splinters anymore. We tell the ones who bend that they're weak. We tell the ones who break that they're defective. And we never ask, who built this world so rigid that no one can stay whole inside it? Some of the most bitter people you'll ever meet were once the softest. They gave and gave and gave until giving started to feel a little like bleeding. Until generosity was no longer a choice, but a currency they had to trade in just to stay safe. Just to belong. And when the world didn't give back, when the care wasn't mutual, when kindness was mistaken for weakness, and empathy used like a doormat, those people, they hardened. Not because they stopped feeling, but because they felt everything way too much. And no one helped them carry it. Bitterness is a grief unspoken. Cynicism is hope betrayed. And cruelty? Sometimes it's the only armor left when softness becomes a liability. We tell people to keep helping, to stay kind and rise above. But no one survives on selflessness alone. Then again, how would you know you're withering if all you've known is poisoned soil? Most of us were planted in rot, and when the leaves curled or the fruit became bitter, they told us we were defective, not the ground that choked us, just us. They never said, "This isn't your fault." They never mirrored back your softness. So, you begin to believe that you were just the scraps, meant to be used, meant to go sour. We talk about resilience like it's a virtue, but sometimes what looks like strength is just someone adapting to the rot because no one showed them how to ask for the sunlight that they need. And sometimes your body knows before your mind does. You think you're failing, but really, you're flinching. There's a big difference between the discomfort from growth and the pain coming from rot. If something makes you feel smaller every time you touch it, it's not nourishing you. It's feeding on you. So, if no one taught you how to tell the difference, then let's start now. You can ask questions like, do I feel a knot in my chest when I think about seeing this person? Because that tension matters. That ache is wisdom. Your body might be recognizing something your mind hasn't dared name yet. Discomfort isn't always a flaw in you. Sometimes it's a signal that something isn't safe. Everyone in this society has been trained to ignore their gut, and that especially goes for women. So please, listen to it. It'll save your life. You can ask, do I go quiet around them? Not necessarily because I feel at peace, but because a part of me has disappeared. Yes, silence can be sacred and soft, but silence born of self-erasure is something else entirely. Notice if you're shrinking in their presence, if your voice vanishes, not from being calm and just enjoying it, but from calculations. Are you not saying something in order to keep the peace? Then that isn't harmony, and that's not a true bond. That is honestly just harm being swallowed. You can ask, does my stomach twist before work or after sharing a personal truth? Anxiety, too, doesn't always mean you're wrong. Sometimes it means you're walking into a space where honesty just costs too much. Or you know that your truth won't land safely. That twist in your gut is a messenger. Don't punish or ignore it, just listen. It's trying to help you. You can also consider something like whether or not you've forgotten what rest feels like. When exhaustion becomes your baseline, it's easy to forget there's another way. Rest isn't just sleep or a nap. It's safety. It's softness. If you can't remember the last time you exhaled all the way, you are not lazy, love. You're running on survival mode. It's no wonder you're exhausted. You need to find ways to truly rest. And with that, you could also ask, do I confuse numbness with safety? Because when your nervous system has been in overdrive too long, numbness can feel like relief, like finally not drowning. But absence of pain isn't always the same as presence of peace. Just because something stops hurting doesn't mean that it's healed. Sometimes it's good to look into those sorts of things, dig a little deeper and actually heal instead of just burying it down to a point where you can't feel it anymore. And if you want more reflections like this, just let me know. But for now, I think these should be good enough to begin. I don't just ask these questions for you. I've had to ask them for myself, too. More than once. And sometimes the answers have come like gut punches. I remember once I had asked my doctor why I kept waking up with this weird dread in my stomach. There was no nightmare, no specific trigger, just dread. And she shrugged. But I found the answer later. I'd been doing things I really wasn't okay with, constantly. Saying yes when I meant no, but I said it just to keep the peace. I was overriding my body's protests to rest because I had deadlines to meet. Carrying everyone else's weight while pretending I had none of my own so I could be easily lovable. Or that's what I told myself. I didn't have a support system. I was the support system. And when I needed help, no one knew how. Because I'd trained myself, to believe I was fine, as long as everything stayed upright, as long as the plates kept spinning. But I was spinning them through self-erasure, through over-servicing, through swallowing my needs until I couldn't even recognize the sound of my own voice. That dread I woke up with, it was a flare going up from my own inner child, screaming, begging me to stop abandoning myself. And I had to learn how to ask the right questions. Not the ones that people were asking me, but the ones that could actually lead me home. A place I had never been. Home. And that's why I share this list of questions with you now. Not because I think you're broken, but because no one taught me how to ask the questions I needed. They only ever asked me to be okay. But here's something I had to learn the hard way. And maybe no one's ever told you either. You don't have to stay. Not in the job that drains you. Not in the room that silences you. Not in the story that only ever casts you as the problem. If the garden you were born into never fed you, you are allowed to leave it. You are allowed to go where things grow. Or treat the soil, or build a container, or fence off the toxins until it's safe to bloom. But just know, even when you start to make new choices, to walk toward the light, to fence off the toxins, you'll still hear them trying to whisper to you, telling you what healing is supposed to look like. Clean, polished, marketable. Something you can post. Something you can buy. Something that looks good on you. They tell you healing is a glow-up, a productivity hack, a morning routine in pastel colors. Because if they can sell you healing, they don't have to support your healing. They don't have to change the system that hurt you. They just need you to believe that you're the problem and that the solution is in your shopping cart. But real healing isn't aesthetic. It's not performative. It's not optimized for engagement. Healing doesn't mean the pain vanishes. It means you stop pretending it doesn't exist. It means listening to your body, to your breath, to the ache beneath your smile. It means making different choices. Not better necessarily, just truer. Sometimes healing looks like stopping and doing nothing. Healing can look like letting yourself fall apart where no one's watching. Healing is not becoming invincible. It's becoming whole, scars and all. I used to think I was the problem, that if I just worked harder, slept better, ate cleaner, meditated more, I'd finally be okay. But none of it worked. Not really, because I was still trying to bloom in poisoned soil. I kept trying to fix the plant, but it wasn't the plant that was broken. It was the ground, the climate, the lack of sunlight, the way I was told to grow in someone else's direction. Nothing truly changed until I stopped asking what was wrong with me, and I started asking what kind of care I had never been given. So if nothing you've tried has worked either, maybe it's not because you're failing. Maybe it's because you've been trying to heal in a space that was never designed to hold you. And you don't need to earn a full rebirth before you take one gentler breath. You're not behind, and you're not permanently broken. You're just a little early in a story that's never been told like this before. There's no map, no finish line, just one flickering lantern and a choice. Try again, try different, try softer. And if the ground beneath you still doesn't feel safe, you don't have to bloom yet. You are allowed to rest. You are allowed to grow slow. You are allowed to start again without shame. This is what I wish someone had told me. So now, I'm telling you, let this be your permission to begin again. And I'll leave the lantern lit for you.